What fantasy race can give you an entire lecture on the laws of physics and then randomly cast a spell that bends reality and destroys all those laws immediately after? The answer is Gnomes. A goblin will build a bomb because they think it's funny to see something blown up into a million pieces. A gnome will build a bomb to do the same thing, succeed with ease, and then spend the next 6 months messing with their schematics until it's able to blow things up into a million pieces. As much as people are afraid of the chaotic destruction a goblin can bring, you should really be afraid of someone who brings an academic approach to their destruction. When you're dealing with a mad tinkerer, you want to deal with the DIY ankle biter that's pissed off about something petty, not the disgraced professor that's about to show that their thesis on cold fusion was correct and is about to prove it by wiping out the university that denied them tenure. Gnomes seem to be highly intelligent but lack all wisdom. Sure, they might know how everything works on a mechanical level, but they forget that sometimes just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should do it. Many gnome inventors have been lost over the years, testing out fully functional jetpacks because they also forgot to invent an equally functional landing pad. There is always a chance that your new high-speed vehicle is actually so fast that traditional brakes no longer work, but you're not going to be able to convince a gnome excited about their new Speedinator 9000 that maybe a couple laps around the laboratory parking lot is in order before they spend the rest of the research budget on a new racetrack that they'll just smash through on the first turn. Gnomes don't really interact with magic the same way that others do. I believe they are masters of illusions because they have such a firm grasp on the laws of reality that they're the only ones that know how to bend them. Call it their Fey ancestry or just their curious nature, letting them come up with new ways to get around the laws of the universe. But the end result is something that resembles an unholy alliance of magic and science. It seems like gnomes don't really see much difference between waving a wand and twisting some gears. To them, magic is like an advanced level of applied physics that the rest of the fantasy races just don't seem to grasp, no matter how many times your party's gnome tries to explain it. When you really get down to it, what's the difference between a steam-powered automaton and an air elemental? For some reason, your party's gnome knows how to make more of them, so that's all that matters. I often forget that gnomes have Fey ancestry, but then one of them invents a glitter bomb and throws it into my bag of holding, and now every time I pull out a potion, it looks like I purchased it at a rave. The pranks that a gnome is able to pull off put even the longest living natives of the Feywild to shame. When you have a brilliant mind and a mischievous nature, you get a prankster in your party whose shenanigans will piss you off so badly that you're asking for deities you don't even worship to smite the gnome on a weekly basis. The Feywild has talking animals, floating islands, and trees that seem to whisper your deepest secrets to you, but give the gnome some time and they can create devices that do all of that. Where most Fey can only twist what is known to make things appear off, gnomes seem to constantly break the limits of what is possible, and I find that a lot more unsettling. If you want to know the difference between a halfling and a gnome, ask a basic question and see how they respond. If it's a halfling, they'll probably not be paying attention, and if they are a gnome, then make sure you get comfortable because you're about to get a 2-hour lecture on it. Gnomes are very knowledgeable about things and overly eager to share, but sometimes when you're an adventurer in a hostile environment, the ability to remain quiet is the difference between life and death. I get that the gnome in your party is excited to talk about the history of the mine that you're descending into, and the many uses for copper ore, but maybe you should keep quiet until you figured out what killed all those miners. Usually when I want a halfling to shut up, I hand them a snack, but when I want to keep the gnome preoccupied, anything that I hand them will get dismantled within a minute. Gnome culture can only be described as a wholesome nightmare, where the chaos of a mad scientist laboratory clashes with the kindness of grandma's house. Sure, there's hazardous materials everywhere from ongoing experiments, but there's also some fresh-baked cookies. Just make sure that the gunpowder doesn't get blended in with the flour mix again. They just finished rebuilding the town again from last month's bake sale. Socially, gnomes seem to be aggressively friendly. I personally think it's because they're trying to hide their actual agenda, and to them, the best defense against questioning their actions is a good offense. If they're always the one dominating the conversation about why their invention is a good thing, you might not realize all the alternative and more deadly ways their gadgets can be used. It's not that I don't believe them about building an invention that can heat up the entire town from a distance using nothing but electromagnetic radiation. I'm just saying that it looks and sounds an awful lot like you're trying to build a death ray. Every gnome is just one bad day away from a full-on supervillain arc, and the scary part is they don't even realize it. All it really takes is someone shunning Trixie Tinkerspell's latest invention, and suddenly becomes their life's work to lock themselves away in their workshop muttering about how one day everyone will understand that their inventions work. The only problem is that it wasn't that no one believed that their devices could work, it's just that when she invented the vacuum, everyone was grateful. But she had to slap a nuclear reactor on her latest model to clean up her home in a fraction of the time. That little upgrade ended up leveling half the city. Her solution wasn't to make more of her older vacuums to clean up her mess. Instead, she gave it another try by making a network of steam-powered automatons that ended up rising against her and destroying what was left of her city. It is no wonder so many gnome hometowns are uninhabitable. You only need one ambitious gnome to ruin everything. And newsflash, every single one of them is endlessly curious and equally eager to prove themselves to the world. The world, on the other hand, is just begging them to get a hobby that is less dangerous. So yeah, gnomes, fantasy's tiniest engines of chaos. They will be the first to explain why something won't work, but then be able to put together some bullshit that does work. This is the part where I normally end up complimenting the race for actually being one of my favorite fantasy races. But as a proud goblin, I'm making a public service announcement that gnomes cannot be trusted. Sure, goblin inventions backfire about 50% of the time, but what we lack in skill, we make up for in heart. Please consider adopting a goblin that is raiding your local village. They are much easier to train and... Fine, I'll do it. You normally don't know how a gnome ended up in the party, but even with all the yapping and hijinks, a gnome will quickly prove themselves valuable. Just make sure to keep a safe distance whenever they start to get too excited. Whatever they're about to try and pull off has a splash zone, and you're already in it. That is why gnomes are fantasy's most deranged tinkerers. If you liked the video, make sure to check out my other releases on the channel and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, you can use code LootGoblin at dnddice.com and get free shipping for purchases over $50, as well as free mystery dice sets when you place bigger orders. Be sure to check out the Fairy Flight 11-piece dice set and the Cottage Core 11-piece dice set to have some innocent-looking dice for your evil gremlin of mass destruction, and check out all the other King of Crits exclusive designs. I'm a big fan of the Lich Lair Dice Tower and use their Plague Doctor dice in my own games. I hope to see you in the next video. Farewell for now.